So I had an issue with my router table that inspired me to start this project right here. Also, I've been kind of wanting to do this for a while, but this really inspired me to go ahead and get started on this. You can see here, I've kind of got this frame built, and I've got my planer, my router table, and my joiner sitting on this. So this is the intentional use for this table that I'm going to be building here. And the thing that I'm going to do now is build a top for it so I can get this planer securely mounted to the table. So I'm building this table entirely out of scrap wood. And for the top, I'm going to be using these 4x6 posts that I picked up on the side of the road. But they're a little bit too thick for what I need for the top of this table. I need 1 inch thick pieces of board. So what I'm going to have to do is rip these down, join them and plane them and get them to the thickness that I want in order to be able to use them for this tabletop. So it turns out that these boards are oak, and it was very difficult to cut these. They're very heavy, and it was tough to push through the saw. Even though I was trying to take shallow passes at it, it took a while to get them through there. But that solid oak should make a really nice countertop. Should make it very durable and nice work surface. So I'm cutting these boards a little bit thick. I'm cutting them about 1.25 inches because these were very rough cut boards when I started. The sides were not square. So what I did was I chose the side that was the most square along with the edge that was the most square and ran that up against the fence. Started there with my cut. Now that I've got this side somewhat squared off, I'm going to be using this to reference against the fence every time I make my next cuts, and hopefully I can get 2 or 3 boards out of this one 4x6. So now I get to do this about 100 more times. So it took me a little while to rip these boards down. I only got through one 4x6 so far. I think I made 3 usable boards out of that. And this one here that was on the edge, I'm not sure I'll be able to use it because it's kind of tore up. So the next step will be to run them through the joiner and then the planer. But I'm going to spare you from having to watch me rip the rest of these boards down, and we'll go ahead and move on to the joiner. I got these 6 boards jointed on one face and one edge, and then I ran them through the thickness planer several times. It seems like I had to run these about 1,000 times a piece through the planer, but finally got them down to the thickness that I want for this tabletop. And as you can tell, even with the dust collection system running, my planer is still the messiest tool in the shop. I know I'm going to need more boards to finish this tabletop, but I want to start by trying to get this router table to where I can use it. So I'm going to try to cut this edge flush, and then I'm going to put this back on here and I'll mark this so I can go around the router and make this one board go all the way around it. What I want to do around this router table, I want to have a board that sticks out in front of it just a little bit, because this router table has some holes in the front here that I can run screws from the inside into the board that will be in front of it. So I'm just going to kind of inset it into the board here. What I want to do first is mark it where the edges of that router table are. And then I'm going to figure out how far this way that I need to take it by setting this here. I want it to overlap the edge of this just a little bit, so that's probably about right. So I'll just put a mark right here, the edge of this board. And then I'll transfer that mark all the way down the edge of this. So first thing I'm going to do is draw a straight line perpendicular to the edge of this board using my speed square. Then I'll measure how far this is off the edge. So we'll get 1.5 inches, a little over 1.5 inches. So I'll just make it 1.5 inches. Then we can use this edge of the pencil on the square and just draw our line. I'm going to see if I can cut this out with my jigsaw. Not sure if it'll work. That's a pretty thick board. And being red oak, it's a tough board. So we'll see how this goes. Jigsaw was taking a very long time to cut through this, so I think I'm going to try something else. I think I'm going to get my circular saw out and see if I can cut along a straight line, and then maybe just finish up cutting through the ends with my jigsaw. That gave us a pretty good fit around the router table here, so I think I want to find a way to secure these down. Might have to end up adding some more boards on the inside here in order to tie the next boards to, but this looks pretty good to me at the moment. So I'm going to secure this board in place and then secure the top of this router table to this board to make sure that they're flush, and then we'll continue on. I decided to drill some holes and countersink screws from the bottom and screw them into the tabletop. So my saw blade was having a hard time cutting through the wood, and it was burning it pretty well. I also had to push really slow to get the boards to go through there. You can see this blade here, the 60 tooth blade, is kind of wore out. I ended up putting a 32 tooth blade in my saw. I'm going to see if that helps rip these boards down a little quicker than what I was doing before. that did a lot better with this new blade in it. I'm not sure whether it's because it's a new blade or because it has less teeth, but I was able to rip through the board about halfway or a little over halfway and then flip the board over and cut the rest of the board out. And it did make a pretty smooth cut. I'm actually surprised how well that cut. So I probably should have changed this before I even started this project. So that just tells me, make sure that you have the right blade in your tool before you use it for the project that you're working on. Every once in a while, you just have to hang out with your biggest fan. So I got the top of this bench shaped about the way I want it. So my router tabletop's going to sit here, the joiner's going to sit on this end, and then I'm just going to bolt the planer to the top of the table. But what I need to do now is smooth out this top. You can kind of see got a few things like these pocket hole covers right here that I put in, and the boards aren't all flat, so I want to make it flat now. And the way I'm going to be doing it is by using an electric hand planer. A lot of woodworkers will probably say I'm cheating, but that's the way I'm going to do it. Got this DeWalt electric hand planer. But what I'm going to do is make sure that I've got it set at 0 right here, because I don't want it to really be taking off a lot of meat. I just want it to flatten out the top, so I leave this set at 0 so the front part of the plane and the back part of the plane should be even with each other. When it runs across, it should just make a nice smooth flat top. Well, that really makes a mess, but what it also does is makes a nice flat surface. You've probably heard the term coplanar if you've been around woodworking very long. And so what that does is it takes all these boards and puts them to where they're on the same plane, or makes a flat surface. So the other thing this does, it makes marks in the wood. So now what I'm going to have to do is sand this down so that I can get these planing marks out of all these boards, and then I'll have a nice smooth work surface. Well, that was fun. My belt on my belt sander, this brand new belt I just put on there, decided to go ahead and tear. So I got my work table done. I flattened out the top and sanded it, and I've got my tools bolted to it. I've got my joiner on the end, the router table here in the middle, and I've got my planer bolted to this end over here. Now this will allow me enough room to where I can use these tools to suit my purposes for the jobs that I'll be doing. If I need to joint or plane longer boards, I can always take this table outside and use it out there. I do plan in the future videos to make some drawers for this, to have some storage underneath here for maybe router bits, any of the tools that I might need with my joiner, planer, or my router. And those will be coming in the future, but for now I'm happy with the way this turned out. The top is really nice. I've been able to use it a couple times already, and I'm really pleased with the results on this router table here. So this gives me a good surface where I can clamp on some stop blocks if I need to, and also it gives me plenty of room on this side where I've got a little bit extra space where I can kind of use it as a little bit of an assembly table if I need to. Although I do have another table that I can use for assembly as well. As always, I ask you to feel free to share this with your friends and family, people that you think might enjoy this content. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future content coming from my channel. And I'm Jay Ray, and I'd like to thank you very much for watching Jay Ray's DIY. It gives me enough surface where I can clamp on some stop blocks. Kind of sink it into there. Sink it in. Okay, so that's interesting. It takes a while to rip these boards. This oak doesn't. So I had an issue with my router table that inspired me to start this project. Got a ways to go still, but I've got a frame built